What's going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with Adam Ronis, bringing you the Fantasy Lime NBA DFS live stream for Wednesday's 11-game main slate. What's going on, Adam, FA Nation? Jon Impemba today. You and I did the podcast last night to give us a first look. We were expecting maybe, a lot of injury news possibly to break, as it had been accustomed on this slate, but we didn't really get too much out of what we figured last night was going to happen. Ended up happening. You were the man that did the dive today. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, it's a pretty good slate. Obviously, some really good players to spend up on, but not a ton of value has opened up. It sounds like Kawhi Leonard is going to play tonight. It's not. I haven't seen anything official, but all the speculation is he and Paul George will finally play together tonight. That is obviously a late game, but
Zubac broke that news. He was talking to reporters and leaked the information. So doing everybody a favor there and getting it out early for us.
Yeah, helping the fantasy players here. We appreciate that.
Exactly. So like I said, though, we got the 11 games, so let's not waste any time here because it's kind of a lot to go over with. And as I said, you were the man on the playbook today, so let's kick it off. Point guard, someone out in that you and I just are absolutely kind of in love with here is Luka Doncic. The price tag, you get the discount off Giannis and Harden. We talk about again, if there's a blowout, that's really the only concern, but we have high ownership percentages on him tonight. So, how much of Luka Doncic do you have in your lineups?
Yeah, I think you want to get him as much as possible because he's just got such a high floor right now, and the ceiling is enormous too. Another triple-double the other day. That's 6 on the season. He has at least 52 DraftKings points in 11 to 13 games this year. We know the Warriors coming out playing on a back-to-back. They're 29th in defensive efficiency this year, so it's hard not to like Luka. And as you mentioned, he should be priced near Giannis now, and he's not. So, yeah, I mean, if you can afford Luka, you want to get him in.
He's got 5 triple-doubles over his last 9 games. So he's absolutely killing it right now. What other point guards do you have on here? Like I said, a big slate. So there are a lot of guys sort of in that next tier below Trae Young, Russell Westbrook. What's your take on that? Those players?
Yeah, I think Trae Young obviously has had a couple of down games, and part of it is due to blowouts. They got blown out by the Clippers and the Lakers, and they're coming off a 5-game road trip. So at home, obviously the Bucks, not the ideal matchup, but it's going to be a high-paced game. So I think a lot of people won't look at Trae Young. So I think he's decent in GPPs. Westbrook's obviously coming off his best game of the year with that triple-double, and he's 8,600 on DraftKings. So you can go there as well. And Jamal Murray for GPPs, you saw the upside that he had the last game against the Grizzlies with 39 points, 8 assists, 4 boards, and 3 steals. So it should be a high-scoring game against the Rockets if the Denver plays up in pace, because we know the Rockets are right up there. And he's not in the playbook, but Patty Mills is going to be the starting lineup. So he's 3,600 on FanDuel, so he's in the optimal lineups. Even if he's starting, he might only play mid-20s minutes, but it's against the Wizards, so he can easily
236 team total right in that one, or was it even a little bit higher?
I think the last I saw was 237.
237, yeah. So, perfect spot for Patty. We talked about him on the podcast last night, maybe being sort of a GPP flyer with Derek White ruled out. Didn't expect him to get in that starting lineup, but the fact that he did, and you look at, aside from last game, the 2 games prior, over 20 fantasy points in those 2, I think you're going to see a lot of ownership, for sure, over on FanDuel, like you said, given that cost of him. Pretty high ownership tonight for him. At shooting guard, you have James Harden at the top. You put it simply in there, always in play. He is. He's always in play. You don't need to expand too much on that. But the guys below him, are definitely interesting. Obviously, Beal getting the big price bump now, but he's in that awesome matchup for him. But I have more interest, I think, in a couple guys below him. And again, mostly because of the DraftKings pricing. Jimmy Butler's at 77 and DeMar DeRozan's at 81. If you're kind of flipping a coin or picking between those 2, which side do you go with?
Yeah, that's close. I probably lean Butler. I know DeRozan's in the better environment, as we alluded to. Spurs, Wizards, 237. DeRozan has a 26% usage rate over the last 4 games. He's coming off the best game of the season for him with 36 points, 8 boards, and 4 assists. Obviously, the Spurs are just playing terrible basketball. They really need this game. But Butler is just playing so many minutes, 38 minutes he's averaging over the last 4 games, and he's just doing everything right now for this team. He's handling the ball a lot. The assists are there. So they are big favorites, 10.5-point favorites. but Butler can get there. So I lean Butler, and you get $400 savings, which doesn't sound like a lot, but on a slate like tonight, it can matter.
It is. It can make a difference. And the one thing with Butler that jumps out to me is if you look at what he's averaging this year for fantasy points per game, it's at 42.8, almost 43 fantasy points. And he's priced at 7,700, which means we're looking at 5x at 7,700 is only 38 fantasy points. So they're giving you almost 6-ish value X return just based off his regular performance. So I'm big on Jimmy Butler there. What other shooting guards maybe a little bit below are we looking at?
And Spencer Dinwiddie, I think he's almost a lock. I mean, the salary has gone up, but Kyrie Irving is out, Karis LeVert is out, and we've already seen Dinwiddie's asked to do a lot. Without Irving and LeVert on the floor, at 30.8% usage rate, good matchup here against the Hornets, and we saw the other night 28 points, 8 assists, 5 steals against the Pacers without Kyrie. So I think Dinwiddie, even with the 7,200 price on DK and 73 on FanDuel, I think you are trying to do everything you can to get him in the lineup tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Something I just want to bring up right now, because you called it on the podcast a little bit, because I'm just getting this breaking news now. Draymond Green now all of a sudden questionable to play tonight. You pointed out last night that, do you think Draymond would sit? And I'm like, well, I don't know. He hasn't sat yet. Like, why would he sit? Yada, yada, yada. He did apparently hurt his elbow last night. Yeah. So we didn't know that obviously at the time of recording. But, I mean, if he does sit, that definitely changes a lot of things. Probably most notably at the point guard position, which we discussed, Kai Bowman would move right into that starting lineup. And the price tag on him has dropped, because of sort of the role that they have been playing with Draymond there. So, I think that's definitely something to at least pay attention to as we hit towards roster lock. I mean, we're sort of in that witching hour now, an hour before lock, and this news is breaking. So sorry to cut you off there, Dinwiddie. A great call there. Who else are you looking at?
Yeah, I think obviously Bradley Beal on the high end. He's been on fire. It's a good spot here. He's averaging 40.7 points over his last 3 games. And the Spurs have been terrible defensively. This is not the Spurs team that we've been accustomed to in recent years. They're allowing 114.6 points per game. So definitely could look at him. And I don't think a lot of people are going to look at him tonight. Obviously, it's not the best environment with Orlando, but Fred VanVleet, when the games are competitive, he plays huge minutes. I mean, they'll play him 40, 42 minutes. So it's projected to be a close game with the Raptors favored by 3 at home against the Magic.
Yeah, that one, Orlando obviously plays pretty slow, and that's like one thing I think will keep a lot of people off VanVleet. But I mean, like you said, given the injuries that they have and the lack of depth, he's playing like 40 minutes a night. So even in a slow environment, just knowing that he's going to be the guy that ends up taking a lot of those shots, I think he's a good call. Is probably a really nice contrarian play. We only have him for 5% ownership tonight over on DraftKings. So again, good looks there. Giannis, top spend up at small forward. We hate the small forward position on FanDuel because of how limited it is with the positions. The other night he didn't really pay off the tag. He went for 55 against Chicago. We know he's gone for 60, 70 fantasy point upside here. Atlanta, one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. 232 total, 11-point spread. How much do you have interest in actually paying up for Giannis, kind of given all that?
Yeah, I think it's tough tonight. From what I've seen so far, just trying to put things together, it's really going to cost you elsewhere. So, as we mentioned before, I kind of rather pay for Luka.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I'd definitely rather go ahead and play for you, Luka. What are you doing with Paul George? Still 7,800, 83. Got the minutes bumped up for him the other day, but now we have Kawhi joining the fray with him. Does he have any appeal to you?
Yeah, I think he still does. He's just too cheap. Even with Kawhi likely to play, I know it's Boston, but I think there might be points in this game. And George has looked really good so far. Obviously, the last game, he didn't come through in 29 minutes, but he's averaging 29.3 points in his first couple games. And, he's got major upside at that price. Yeah. So I think you do have to consider him in tournaments.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think especially at that under $8,000, 8,300 on FanDuel, 78 on DraftKings, he is a 9K talent. So, you got to take advantage of the situation there for sure. Richardson was ruled out for the 76ers, so you threw Tobias Harris in there. Another guy that I think could benefit facing the Knicks. I like that call a lot. I don't know if he's going to be on a lot of people's radar on a large slate like that, but he's another one that's given us 40 plus fantasy point upside before.
Yeah, and I don't think he will be in a lot of lineups because people are going to shy away from the Knicks Sixers. They see the low total. They see the spread with the Sixers favored heavily. So he wasn't really on my radar until Richardson was ruled out. And again, 6,200 on DK, for cash games, if you're in that range, I don't think he's a primary build. But if you come down to the end of your lineup and he's one of the options, I think you can get him in there, and I think he's safe.
Yep, I think he's a good cash game play, 100%. With the Draymond news, Alec Burks for me jumps up huge. He's already one of the better scorers they have on that roster. He can ball handle a little bit too. If they don't want to go with Bowman, they could just as easily go Burks at guard if they need to. I did have a ton of interest in Will Barton that you have there, but for me, I think now you take a look at Burks. How are you deciding between the two if, in fact, Draymond's ruled out?
Yeah, I already liked Burks to begin with before this Draymond news. Obviously, he gets a boost now, and they've needed him to do a lot, and he did. He started last night. He led the team with 36 minutes played. He, 29 points, 8 rebounds, 2 3-pointers, shot 9 for 15 from the field. So absolutely, he's definitely a play, and I think you're going to see his ownership go up too if Draymond is indeed ruled out.
Larry Nance entering the starting lineup. He's a good price over on FanDuel. Again, I know you and I were talking about sort of roster builds and whatnot. Where does Nance fit into that for you?
I like him a lot tonight. The savings that you get from him, especially on DK at 4,300. He's going to start. Should go close to 30 minutes. I know Miami's really good, but Nance has shown when he's on the court he can produce numbers. So like him a lot tonight.
Yep, I agree with you for sure. I think again he's another one. Given the cost, even over on DraftKings 5,300, he could kind of go overlooked, but he's a high energy guy. He flies in, gets rebounds. He can get aggressive around the rim for them, and maybe you chip in a couple steals and whatnot. So I think Nance, again, given sort of the news that's sort of breaking around, it may even go less owned than before. You have a pair of Nets because again they're both listed as small forward. Prince and Harris. Do you have a favorite between those two?
I lean Harris. He obviously is coming off a down game, but the game before that, he had 22 points, 8 assists, 4 boards, 2 steals. So if his shot is going down because obviously they're shorthanded, they're at home, better matchup compared to the last game when they were going against the Pacers, up here against the Hornets. So, he could really come through with a big game, and, they're going to need him. Yeah,
they are. They are definitely going to need him. Again, sort of more news breaking. The Bulls are going to go ahead and start Shaq Harrison tonight. He's mid-price. He's starting over Hutchinson. He's played 3 minutes the last 2 games, but again, if you want to throw a dart out there, Harrison, I assume, is mid-price across the board. He's a point guard, small forward over on DraftKings. I'm trying to see exactly where they got him listed over on FanDuel, where he is a point guard, also mid-price over on DraftKings. So again, he's starting. Take that for what it is. We do like, typically attacking Detroit. They're not a strong defensive team, per se too much. So I don't know how much of Shaq Harrison you can expect, but last year he actually did put up some decent numbers at times. So again, at least something to note, that a mid-price player has moved into the starting lineup for the Bulls tonight.
Kobe White's a game-time decision now, they're saying, with an ankle.
Right. So that could even hamper the depth a little bit more. Maybe Dunn becomes more of a play for you as well if White's out. Just thinking about who could back out the point guard. White taking a lot of usage when he's on the floor. Satoransky's there, but White and Dunn playing together in that second unit. Maybe Dunn gets a bump. Power forward, Bam, really a center. Listed as a power forward on FanDuel. I think he's still center only on DraftKings. I actually really like this spot for him. Kevin Love is not a good defender whatsoever. Tristan Thompson at center is a little bit more bulky, overall better at keeping guys out of the paint. I really, really like Bam tonight. For me, he's, I think, one of the top overall power forward plays. You have him in the playbook today. Are you leaning the same way I am with him?
Yeah, he's had a really good season. He was someone I wanted in redraft leagues. I took him picking 12 on the 4-5 turn because I knew he wouldn't make it back. And obviously a lot of people in the draft room got upset because they were eyeing him too.
Yeah.
But we saw it last year, when he filled in towards the end of the year, and he's picked up where he's left off, 13.9 points per game, 10.6 rebounds, 4.6 assists, the blocks, the steals.
Love the blocks and steals.
Yeah, and as you alluded to, it's a good matchup here tonight. So, yeah, definitely like him tonight.
Yeah, Bam was actually the Vegas favorite for most improved player of the year this year. if you were going to go ahead and bet those props. He was the leader in the clubhouse for that heading into the year. Probably well on his way. There are a few players that I think are having in more improved years than Bam from the year before. The guy that's going to be the cover of my starting five, which will be out after this live stream, is Blake Griffin tonight. Talked about him on Sirius this afternoon with Howard and Jim. Only $7,100 on DraftKings, $7,900 on FanDuel. Gets the Bulls, who really struggle against opposing front courts here. And then his minutes cap has been lifted. He's playing around 30 minutes the other night. I love that he's getting the assists now, 6 assists in both games. And then I looked at it, and he has like a 35% usage rate on the floor this year in the 2 games. But, I mean, that's with Draymond. That's with everybody else on the floor with him. He is just absolutely dominating the ball when he's out there. Now the supreme matchup, on FanDuel, maybe you just spend up and you put Griffin, you put Bam in your power forward and get the value elsewhere.
Yeah, I think you certainly could do that. The other good thing is he hasn't played since November 15th, so he's had several days rest. So it's a great spot for him. The Bulls play at the 8th fastest pace. So, yeah, I think a lot of people probably they look at game logs and they see the minutes. They're like, oh, a little concerned, and I don't think he's going to be highly owned tonight. I could be wrong. I haven't seen ownership percentages, but I don't see him garnering high ownership today.
Yeah, and surprisingly, we only have him projected for low ownership. If I'm going to get Blake Griffin tonight at like 6%, then please let me do it, because I feel like this is just, taking candy from a baby here. Only needing 35 from him for 5x, then you're getting this great spot against Chicago. I'll take that all day. Again, the Draymond news kind of hampers that, because I did like Draymond in this spot against Dallas. Kind of got to be off him now. But you do have Paul Millsap. We didn't talk too much. Usually we talk a lot about games that Houston's involved in. We haven't talked too much about it tonight. Millsap, though, in a good spot here against them at home, where he tends to play better.
Yeah, so he's got a good shot here at a double-double. He's been playing better lately. This will be a high-paced game. Denver's actually been slow-paced team this year, which is, I think, surprising. But Rockets play at one of the quickest, fastest paces in the league. So I expect the game to be competitive. Obviously, it's a close spread. I think Denver, the last I saw, is favored by 1.5. So I expect this to be a competitive game, which means Millsap will be on the court for a good amount of minutes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that's what we want. We need the minutes out of Millsap to get the usage out of Millsap. So, and he can definitely provide you with those defensive stats, which you get the bonus for over on FanDuel. Center spot, Towns had a very, very good game against Utah the other night in Utah. They're now at home. Typically Towns is a guy that we pay up for. We didn't like him against Utah the first time, proved us wrong. Are you going to avoid him again, or do you think you can repeat that performance?
Yeah, I don't think he's a must-play tonight, but you can go there. Obviously, coming off the great game against the Jazz on the road on Monday, now back home. 9,600 on DK is kind of appealing. So I don't think you're going to start your build with him, but I think you can play him tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think he'll even be contrarian. I don't think maybe you're going to go in that direction at all, to be honest with you. Embiid, another one that we project to have low ownership. I wasn't on him much to begin with. I think he's going to be sort of squashed in the middle of either people paying up for Towns or going down to Drummond or Capella, who you both have in the playbook. Is Embiid somebody that you're actually looking to put in maybe a primary lineup, or is he more of a pivot play for you?
No, he's a pivot play. He's a tournament play because he's going to have low ownership. So I get it. It's not an appealing spot just because you're worried about the blowout. Even though the Knicks have played better lately, it hasn't been against great opponents. Philly has kind of played down to the level of the competition too often this year. So if this game can somehow stay close and he gets to 34 minutes, he could smash in this spot, and not a lot of people are going to have him tonight. So it's clearly GPPs if you're playing multiple lineups. Yeah,
I agree with you for sure. Like I mentioned, you have Drummond, you have Capella. Capella now 4 straight games with 20 rebounds. We know Drummond is the king of the 20 rebound game. Capella, obviously a little bit cheaper on FanDuel, a lot more cheaper on DraftKings. Similar ownership percentages for them. I think Drummond has the better matchup, but Blake is there now. Do you have a favorite between the two?
Yeah, I think it's close. I think on FanDuel, I'll probably go Drummond just for 100 more. On DK, I'll take the savings and play him. Again, I just feel like a lot of people just don't play Capella. I know the center position can be deep at times, but I mean, he's got at least 52 DK points in 3 of the last 5 games, and Nuggets are near the bottom against centers. So I think he had that shoulder issue early in the year, and I think that was clearly affecting his play. He clearly seems to be over it now, so definitely always in play for me.
Yep. And then lastly, a guy that helped me the other night cash in some GPP contests, Brook Lopez, going up against Atlanta. You talked a lot about how you probably won't have any ownership, going to get lost in sort of the scrum there with all the centers. But again, strong performances back-to-back games. Atlanta, a terrible team against centers. I'm a big fan of Lopez tonight. He's going to be in some of my lineups for sure. Again, you have him in your playbooks. I know you like him, but what's your take on him?
Yeah, this is a special one for you because we talked about it on the podcast. And
I appreciate that, yeah.
He's been getting it done. And again, it's another good spot. And everyone likes to pay up for a lot of these centers, and I understand it. So if you get him at low ownership, and it's a spot where I think we're going to see a lot of offense tonight. And Milwaukee's been playing that way; they've been putting up a ton of points. So he's cheap, and especially if he can get those blocks again too. That's going to be key.
5 in each of the last 2 games.
Right, 5 blocks in each of the last 2. So if he can get there, then he'll smash this value.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I think the Draymond news is interesting as well. I know he's playing point guard, small forward, whatever he is, but just taking away a big like that, I think could potentially maybe give a boost to a guy like Cauley Stein, who's been playing 26 or so minutes a night now. So I think, again, more injury news as it comes through, could impact some of the players in that game. Adam, any final thoughts here before we wrap it up and wait around till Russell can tinker with our lineups?
Obviously, we're just kind of waiting, especially for that Draymond news. Hopefully, we get it before lineup lock on FanDuel. And I already see Damian Lillard's been ruled out for tomorrow.
Yeah, Lillard and his backup there, Simon's also questionable, Whiteside questionable. So it's already a 2-game slate, and now it's already getting worse. So, play your money tonight, save it for Friday. Tomorrow's just a showdown slate for me. So good luck, everybody. Again, we're going to be in subscriber chat answering your questions all the way up to roster lock, leading you up with anything late breaking news. Are the lineups out yet, Adam? They coming be posted?
They are out there, but there is some Draymond Green in there. So
we'll be probably making some adjustments to the lineups then. So be on the lookout for that as well. Good luck, everybody, and we'll talk to you later.